Welcome to Destination Wedding Planning Made Easy, where your team at Destination Weddings Expert talks about all things weddings. Join us as we talk about tips, tricks, and those all too easy pitfalls to avoid when planning your big day. All right, welcome back to Destination Wedding Planning Made Easy. You've got the team from Destination Weddings Expert here. I am Mario. You've got Nikki Sanders and Prissy Powell. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us today. We are super excited. This one's a fun topic that we get to talk about today, but an important one, especially if it's something that you want for your big day. So today we are talking about specialty dates and what that means and when they should be requested. And, it's just trying to navigate that piece of the process, right? So, when we say specialty dates, we are talking about holidays. It's holidays come with their own challenges when you're trying to book a wedding. We're talking about palindromes. That's any of those dates that have like a special rhythm to them, a 7/27/27, something like that. That is significant when it comes to numerological order. Can't pronounce
That's 3 times fast.
right, exactly. Or even just dates that work really well that you should be looking at as you're considering. So these are all things we kind of want to talk about today. So I think the biggest ones that you're going to run into major roadblocks with. Let's start with holidays. So Prissy, talk to us about holiday dates, and first of all, which ones are kind of like the big ones to keep an eye out.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, and then maybe some of the challenges that come along with that.
Um, the biggest ones that I see, Easter, flat out, a lot of resorts block off their Easter calendar completely. Christmas is another big one. New Year's Eve is another big one.
Mhm.
So I like to look at those as the big three. Resorts are typically not allowing you to have your event on 12/31/30, whatever year it is. They're not letting you host that event on Easter. They're not giving you Christmas. Case in point, it is a worldwide holiday. Also, the resorts also do their own things on those days. So they may have a Christmas celebration or a New Year's Eve party, or they may be celebrating the Easter holiday. So they're not going to set aside their prime time for you.
Mhm.
I find that guests who want those days, they kind of piggyback on it. So instead of doing the 31st, they may get married on the 1st,
Mhm.
or the 30th, and then they can partake in the Christmas festive celebrations and then also have their little event a little bit delayed or a little bit early.
So before we break that down a little bit further, I think one of the important things that you talked about there was it's the dates actually getting reserved and the staffing. That
Hmm.
staffing is one of the most important things, because when we're talking about like Christmas Day, that's first of all, that resort is going to be on bare minimum skeleton staff. They're going to try and let as many people go home and be with their families as they can. And the staff that is there is probably running an event that's happening to keep the guests that are on property entertained and whatnot while they're there, right? So that's going to be kind of your first challenge that you have, is just the resort staff, just the resort being able to accommodate for that, which is why those dates, the Christmas Day, actually Christmas Eve in a lot of the
Yeah.
destinations, New Year's Eve, Easter, those ones are going to be really, really hard to get if you can get them at all. They might just say absolutely not.
Yep.
And if you do, chances are you're not going to have comps that are included,
Yep.
right?
That is definitely correct. They're not giving you any perks for those days. Those are actually blackout days. So every year, couple of years, we get a list of blackout days. Those holidays are always included. Lately, I've been seeing some resorts blackout President's Day.
Mhm.
President's Day isn't big worldwide, but it is big with Americans because most of us get that day off of work. So any day that, a bunch of people are off of work, resorts may block it
Fourth,
off just
Fourth of
because.
July.
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's peak. So yeah.
So, so we've
And
had, go
it's
ahead.
also maybe the week leading up and the week following can fall into that frame of dates where it makes travel expensive,
Hmm.
sometimes difficult, especially during the Holy Weeks. You might be limited. You can't do you can't do, a boat because
Mhm.
it's restricted. There's things on certain properties in different countries that they're not doing it because they're respecting their staff and the community on some of these days as well.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that, it's when we're talking destination weddings, first of all, for destination weddings expert, we're probably talking about Mexico or the Caribbean, specifically DR, right?
Mhm.
But even if you do have a destination wedding elsewhere, it's Italy, Greece, all of these places are highly religious. And so, when you have that, you have, a holy week. When you have that, that's first of all, staff is going to be down to a minimum. And then also there's going to be just some restrictions that come in from the government that they won't allow you to do certain things. We have run into the, no motorized boating. It can't happen on a week. So just some of those things like that you really have to watch out for. I think, Nikki, you're going to be able to speak to this one a lot. Is going to be, this year especially. I don't know what happened this year, but this year especially, we have got, is it 3 weddings between, like, in December, between Christmas and
In
New
between
Year's?
holidays,
Yeah.
very close to Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year's, and
Mhm.
just right after New Year's. And these are hard to get a large group.
Yep.
They're not undoable. And yes, it seems like just amazing to have all of my family and my best friends with me to celebrate my wedding and New Year's Eve the next night. Fantastic idea.
It's great in concept.
Super hard for a lot of people because,
Yeah.
you know, some people are already committed to holidays with their families, one side or the other. Um, for some people, it's just too costly. This is high season. It is my personal dream just to be out of my house and away from everyone from Christmas to New Year's, so I don't have to do any
No
of the
worries.
cooking, any of the work, any of the stuff. One day I will do it. I have never been able to. Um, but again, for your family and friends, yes, it might be too hard. That doesn't mean you can't get your small group and do your little boutique wedding with, your ride or dies that they want to do this too. It
Right.
can still happen, but just set up your expectations.
You have to be realistic about it. I think, it was one of our couples this year, they did the New Year's date. I was like, hey, great. Have you researched this at all? No, no, no. But they were booked with an offsite property. So they already had a planner. They were already moving forward. I was like, all right, we'll take care of the room block for you. So we got the room block going, and it wasn't, what was it, Nikki? It was maybe 2 months after we got the room block going. And we had, the groom, I think it was reaching out to us saying, we didn't realize how expensive flights were going to be. Like, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Everybody wants to be in the tropics and not the snow.
Yeah.
They just
Everybody.
and and there's a whole lot of people that can afford it and
Mhm.
have the time off, and they're going to take those spots.
Yep.
So,
I feel like those dates are owned by, like, the retirees and the Canadians. We have a lot of Canadians that travel over that time, and it's just, it's peak high season, even though it's a holiday and a restricted date, right?
yeah.
They also plan early. Like resorts
Yes.
have a list of guests who travel on these dates.
Oh,
And
yes.
some even have like the well, you can sign up if it becomes available, but
Mhm.
it's a list to get on that list. So it's very prime time, prime season. And what a lot of people don't realize, it's very busy.
Yep.
Holiday travel, peak season travel, I've done it. It was cute, but it was a lot of people and service is slower. So it's not what you think it would be because you're sharing the resort. They're at 99.9% occupancy. So it's
Yep.
Yeah, and if they have timeshares, they're booked up too.
Yep.
And like Christy says, they do the people that go, the people that spend
they
Thanksgiving
go.
week at the resort, they have that booked 2 years in advance.
Mhm.
Right.
They have those rooms for their family blocked off every other year. It's a standing reservation, so it's kind of hard to wedge in a group in between these regulars and this and the things, and it's hard for your family and friends. Sometimes they can't manage everything. It's
And
hard.
It's a premium. You're paying 3 times easy what you would pay if you go early December. Like my sweet spot for winter babies who want to travel, let's do the first 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Much easier, much more comfortable, much lots of less people. Like
And it's still decorated.
It's still
Still
decorated.
decorated.
Those decorations go up like that Mariah Carey song. They
Yes.
up on the first, like
Yeah.
they are ready.
It's
Yep.
I think the other challenge, and this challenge actually falls more so on us, is how we estimate the room block
Mm.
on those dates, right? On those holiday dates. Because when we're looking at holidays and we're saying, we have a couple that's saying that, hey, we're going to have an invite list of 200 people. From that equation, usually that'll take us down to about 130 that we expect to get. Normally, we would block 65 rooms for that group if we determine that realistically we're getting 130 people. However, it's if we're looking at one of these holiday dates, I always tell our couples take that, cut it in half.
Mhm.
But you have to hold the rooms because if we don't have them, we won't get them
We're
back at
not
the
getting it back.
price. So
Exactly.
it's like, oh, it's a tough little line to run along
Mhm.
here,
Mhm.
hoping that, you're gonna get who you wanted, and then we have the right rooms because once we give them back, they
They're
will
gone.
go to the snowbirds and the Canadians that have, 3,000 weeks of vacation available to them and extra income. They'll be there. No problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. That is the challenge, and trying to manage a room block when when you're working with rooms that we haven't used, and guests who all of a sudden aren't coming, and flights are too expensive, so they canceling
Mhm.
the rooms, and it's a very hard thing to manage during those dates. Is it doable? Yes, it's doable. Do you want a team managing it for you? Yes, you definitely want someone managing it for you because that time of year is going to be next to impossible to navigate with those rooms and attrition policies and penalties and things like that.
So if you want Winter Wonderland, the first 2 weeks of December is
Yeah.
if you want
You'll see me in
like
Destination.
yeah, like Fabulous Mrs. Maisel, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, she had to have that Winter Wonderland wedding date.
I love that show.
I know, right?
Yeah.
First 2 weeks of December, we got you.
That's okay. So now that we talked about holidays, those are, the hardest to navigate when it comes to our specialty dates. The next thing I want to talk about is the fun ones. So these are what they're called palindromes. And palindrome dates are just kind of like the ones that they either have a pattern to them or repetitiveness to them, or I'm going to lump in the same conversation palindrome dates that are specific to you, to the couple that you just really really want, right? It's so when it comes to palindrome dates, the one we were going through dates before the call, just kind of talking about ones that'll be popular coming up. By the way, for anyone listening, block these off right now. 6 6 26, 6 26 26, 2 6 26, 7 17 27, 7 27 27. Those are just some of the most popular ones. There's a lot that are coming up, but these will be the most popular ones that are either already probably reserved
Mhm.
or going to be reserved very quick. So if you want them, you want to get them now. Now, typically, we don't run into the same problems with the room block that we run into with holidays, right?
Mhm.
Because palindrome dates, yes, they're popular for the wedding date to reserve that wedding date, but for actually getting the room block around the dates, most of them don't fall around a holiday. Most of them aren't going to be in a blackout period, so you should be able to get that room block. But again, the rooms are going to be limited quantity because people are already looking at that. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I think palindromes are probably most popular with wedding groups. You're not going to look at that for necessarily FIT travel. You're not going to look at it.
No, they don't care about 11/11.
It's exactly.
Although every time you see it on the clock, I go 11/11. I don't know why.
Always. I know. I know. But what are your thoughts on those palindrome dates, Prissy? Do you think, I mean, do you run into problems a lot losing those dates for couples?
We run into problems because other brides want them. So the popular dates, you're not the only one thinking, 7/7/27. So you're going to run into that, finding a resort that can take you. If you want to be the only wedding that day, that's going to be an issue for you because the resorts that do one wedding per day, they may possibly have somebody on that day. And if they don't, you have to be okay sharing your day with another bride.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Those are the biggest issues we see with those dates.
I think
If you want them, grab them now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think my biggest recommendation that I can say for couples who are looking at the palindrome dates is, if you know that you want the date and you're not ready to move forward with the room block yet, you haven't even talked about your guest list yet, but you know you want 7/7/27, reach out to a travel advisor, get that date blocked now. You can do the room block later. It's
Yeah.
that you don't need to do the room block immediately, although I recommend getting it done at the same time, just so that there's no surprises.
Lock in those rates.
Yeah, lock in those rates. The earlier you lock the rates, the better. You're not going to hurt yourself by any means by doing that. By getting that done and taken care of, at least you have the date that you want. And that goes the same for couples who, just have a significant date, that they want to get married on the same date that grandma and grandpa got married. It's get the date now. It's don't, because then all of a sudden you're limiting yourself to which resorts you can go to. And it's all based on the date instead of being based on all the credentials that we've talked about, in previous episodes on why we place your group at certain properties based on what you ask for, right? So those ones are always difficult to get. Then
let's talk about what's good about dates. What dates are good?
Yeah, exactly. That takes us to, it's not, we don't want to scare you into saying like, you need to get your date today. That's not necessarily the case. There are times of the year that are really good to get dates that are a little bit of a sweet spot. And I feel, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like your travel advisor is probably the one that's going to know this. But just because we, work with groups all the time, we work with travel dates all the time. It's Nikki, what is kind of some of the easier ones that, you can be pretty safe on getting into and probably still have availability for 26?
Well, I mean, I know what Prissy's going to say, so I'm going to leave that for her.
Okay.
But if you have families traveling, if you have families, young people, school-aged people, the summertime is hot and it's not, the best, but they have a lot of availability. If you start ahead of time, and you might get great rates, you might get different opportunities at the family resorts, and they're going to have fun programs going on. The kids will be entertained. If you're adults only, okay, you don't have to worry about that. You can still go summertime, get lower rates too. We, you know, it seems like early November is also good before Thanksgiving. You're kind of out of that heat, not quite to the holidays yet. People might want one last hurrah before the end of the year rolls off. And then I'm gonna let Prissy take her favorite month right now.
For my first 2 weeks of December.
That one, but also the spring.
But yeah, spring, and I think the season between like fall and winter, like Nikki said, early November, early December, great. But spring, those seasons, right after winter, right before we kick into, spring break, March, April, you can find some really good stuff out there because nobody's traveling during those times.
Yeah. April's nice.
The weather is
some
perfect.
nice rates, nice groups. We get availability. And March too, like underutilized.
Weather is good, rates are good, airfare is usually good around those times as well too.
May and June pick up.
Yeah, I think the beautiful part of that is that you don't have, it's not busy season. You're not in the middle of hurricane season, which you have to worry about in the tropics. It's, the weather is starting to warm up, but it's not scorching hot yet. It's, there's so many amazing things about that time of the year that, it's, if you're still looking at your 26 dates and you're trying to figure out when should I be looking, take a look at March. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised still.
Yep. Early April.
We were talking before because, asking people to take their kids out of school for a few days.
Yep.
Okay. I have 4 kids. You can take them out of school for a few days. They will be fine. Either they'll give them a packet or their assignments are online. So sometimes that's nicer too, because maybe you want families, but not all of the family in the world at your resort.
Be strategic about the time of the year. Yes.
It's just kind of know your group, know your family and friends, and know what they can do for the people that you really want there.
It's, speaking of kids, and first of all, yes, you can get your kids there if you want to at certain times of years, things like that. On the opposite side of things, like we just had a corporate group that was going to do a site tour. and they were down in DR and looking at a couple different properties. And one of the pieces of feedback that came back to us was, well, I don't know that we want to do this property because it's a family-friendly property and there were a lot of kids. And that's, my point was that's, yes, absolutely, there were a lot of kids there. It's July.
It's summer.
They're on vacation.
Yes.
So there are going to be a lot of kids there, but your group is traveling in, end of January, early February. That's not going to be the same experience at that property. It's going to be very different, actually. It's so, and a lot of times there are some properties out there that will expand their adults only sections depending on what time of the year it is. If it's in the middle of summer, that adults only section is smaller. It's so that they can accommodate some more of the families. And then, as the months come along that the kids are in school, those sections are expanded a little bit. So there's a little bit more area for the adults to escape if they need to.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's always a interesting conversation when I get to talk about adults only and family friendly, because I'm an adults only traveler. I will not go to my resorts. I want my adults only section, and so it's one of the things that I actually get excited talking about.
Honestly, I do too. I don't even want my own children. They stay home. I love them, but I've spent plenty of time with them.
Yeah.
Only stay at family-friendly properties when I am traveling with children. So if there's no children with me, 9 times out of 10, you will not see me at a family-friendly property.
No,
especially in the summer. But then again, when my kids were younger and I had all those people I wanted to travel with, that is exactly what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Different time and place for everything.
Exactly.
It's adults only a lot, but
it's just one of those things that you do want to give some thought into the date that you're selecting. And I know that's just to kind of summarize everything we talked about, it's you can have that romantic thought about the palindrome date or about the holiday date or what it could be, but also think strategically, think logistically about how this is going to get done, because once you start doing the research on actually executing that, it gets a lot harder for those dates. So either plan ahead and know that you're going to dive into a little bit of a struggle as you're doing it, or maybe avoid those dates if you don't want to run into any problems.
And that's one thing with the holiday dates or the higher season dates. Plan ahead so you can give your groups additional time to pay for this fabulous out of the blizzard snow vacation that they want. The last minute turnaround, that might be harder. But if they have a whole year to track flights and to make payments, you know what? It might be really doable for most people.
We will address this deeper in another episode, but that is one thing. It's a trend that I'm seeing lately, and it's a scary one. It's if you're setting up these weddings and you have all these rooms that you want people to travel and whatnot, please, I'm begging you, give your guests some time. I know it's hard to commit to something that far ahead. I know you don't even want to be thinking about planning it yet. You don't need to start planning it yet. But get your blocks locked in. Let people start reserving their rooms. We'll worry about the details later. But people plan their year around some of these vacations, and don't assume that because you have the budget to travel that they necessarily have the budget to travel. So
and requesting the time off. A lot of people now have positions where requesting time off is a process, and it requires approvals and whatnot. And so, they have to be able to get the time off too.
I beg of you, reserve your dates early. I beg of you, give your guests some time to pay for their reservations, to plan for their travel. Ladies, thank you so much for this conversation today. This was a fun one. I like talking about these things. So it's had a blast, and we will talk to you next episode.
Sounds good.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. Want to learn more or ready to schedule your complimentary consultation? Follow us on Instagram at Destination Weddings Expert or visit our website at destinationweddingsexpert.com.